This week, you're going to be working on the second section of your individual project. The first section with the pitch was an overall guide layout, really educating the audience on what you're planning to put together. And then this part two, is the conceptualization stage where you're talking about that in more definition, providing more depth. So in the first section, you may have identified who the main audience is, and you may have identified a potential venue and what the goals are. Now we have to be elaborating on that to really understand the inner workings of the process as well as the overall value of this type of gig. So when you look at the text, chapters 2, 3, and 4 do play a big role on what we want to be accomplishing within this section. And though I didn't necessarily highlight everything, I brought some key bullet points to light, as these are things that should without a doubt be covered. So kind of just reading through the individual project rubric, this is where we do want to provide that layout and share more about that pitch in the bid in more detail and depth. For that timeline, location, and venue, why are we doing it there? So think about, how that best accommodates the audience. Playing off that, maybe think about some hotels that could be in the region or some other community partners that can help put this on. Because if this is a one person show, that's fine, but you do have to be working with external parties to make sure there aren't any conflicts happening that weekend, or that the community resources you're looking for are available to support it. An easy way to really get that information is by performing a detailed SWOT analysis. So this is just a little bit of review from chapter 2, but what are some of those internal strengths? What are some things that this event offers, that you offer, that the host business, whoever it is, offers, that are core strengths? But also, hey, I know this is going to be a challenge. This is where the resources aren't here, or maybe like you're looking to bring a large scale, fill in the blank event to town. Maybe a weakness is that it hasn't happened before, or that you don't have the true scale of the facility to put it on, but this is what you need to be thinking about to make the best out of that event and the resources available. Then externally, what are some of those challenges out there, those threats that are beyond your control? So we're talking about this event is going to be for fall 2022. What's the weather like? Is it going to be in conflict with high school sports taking place? Is, like, what are some of those challenges that roll along with that? But thinking about that in further depth, on the flip side, what are those opportunities um, that can make this a successful event through collaboration, through uniqueness? Let's define that in further depth and walk through those. You could present it as a table, or you could present it in different mini subtitled sections. So you're not just saying this is a strength. Let's hear why this is a strength. I mean, when we go back to that original pitch that you're putting together, the city council, they're not experts on this. So we do have to put this in a language that it's easy for people to understand, even though you might be very passionate about it. Like, for example, if it's an esport competition, you might know a substantial amount about esport, but maybe 7 of the 9 members of the city council have no clue what esport means. So that's where we do have to scale back, some of the industry relevant language to make sure the audience can read it and process it. But also, this is where we have to be very well defined on the target audience. So think about who it is and why. Is it regional? Is it specific to the city, specific to the county, specific to the state? Is this something that's going to bring individuals in from Indiana and Ohio? Is it going to bring people in further? What is that audience, and how are we going to connect with them? So that's when you start piecing this together, that's what's really bridging that next section. So for part three is really probably going to be the biggest section of this whole project, and could take 2+ weeks to assemble. So in this, you want to just make sure you're laying the groundwork, and we're already we have to be thinking forward on, based on this target audience, how on earth are we going to connect with them? How are we going to get them here? How are we going to, going back to that first and second, or that second bullet point, third bullet point, what are we going to do as a community to bring people here? What's the cost of all this? So this is where we do have to be looking and have a good understanding of how we're going to execute part 3 as well as part 4. Because if things aren't adding up when we're starting to define that market this early, it's going to be a challenge to do. So let's have very clear definition. We talked about different demographics and psychodemographics and all these other factors that determine, it's a mix of mindset as well as values, as well as money, as well as age, gender, all these different things should be identified early on when getting that target market identified. So with that, this section, for some people, this might be 3-4 pages. For others, it could be 2 if it's very crisp and very well put together. Also, thinking ahead to the final written report, we're talking about use of tables and charts to complement this. This could be a good section where your visual aids speak for themselves, where the presentation of this information is of more value than in-depth literature, right? So everyone has different presentation styles. I'm not telling you it has to be 3 pages. I'm not telling you it has to be 7 pages. You need to do what you need to do to present this information, cluster it together, and get it on paper so it's easy to understand and so it grabs the attention of the audience. So with that, as you know, part 1 is due on Wednesday. I'm gonna grade those before I grade anything else, so you get quick feedback on that. So by Thursday, you do have the supplemental, thought-provoking items to really hit the ground running and get this section in by Sunday. Let me know if you have any questions.